Hello, I'm Dan Nisnik, and welcome to a special edition of Base Petawawa Journal, coming to you from Bosnia. This week, we go behind the scenes on a sustainment flight overseas, visit the Advanced Surgical Center at the Canadian military camp at Korelici, and we'll see how Canadian troops are making a difference in the life of Bosnian school children. But first, a look at life after the riots in the town of Drvar.
This is the scene as we rolled into 153, if you can see all the people.
Yeah, back in there?
Yeah, that's when they were saying, if there's anybody out there, come and help us. Just in the background, that's when we rolled in. And just from that ground, little piece of ground that we had over here, pushed them all the way back and took over that parade square.
Now, you were involved in the riot yourself. What was that like? What was going through your mind when that happened?
At the time, it's difficult to explain because the hatred and the fury that was possessed by this mob was incredible. It was something that I had never seen before in my life. And to actually be there and see it firsthand, you see it on the news all the time in the countries, and you watch people throwing rocks, and you don't understand the danger involved in it until you're actually surrounded by 200, 300 people that are lobbing rocks at you. So to experience it was kind of like it was fearful. I was scared. That was one of the first times I've really been scared.
And you were hospitalized too, right?
Yeah, yes, I was hospitalized after the riot. It was nothing serious. It was just nerve damage and soft tissue damage in my elbow created by a brick that was launched at my face. And I put my arm up to block it. Some people say I should have taken it off the head.
I just couldn't believe the hatred they had, how bad the Croats wanted the Serbs out of Drvar.
Something you'll never forget, I'm sure.
No, not by far. You'd drive down one street and there'd be rioting, there'd be houses on fire, and then you'd go down the next street, turn the corner, and there'd be children playing in the park. Something that, if it were to happen in Canada, that we'd take our families and get out and let the rioters riot. And then there's these two twins that stuck out in my mind, and the parents had them just on the side of the street watching the riots, and the babies were just crying. They're about 2. They're holding their ears and crying from the sound of our vehicles driving by, and just something that children shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah, fear was present, but a positive fear. It keeps you honest, keeps you thinking and alert. It wasn't a fear of what's going on or fear of anything specific. It's just you're keeping a conscious vigil of everything going on around you. It's amazing what the mind can pick up. So yes, there was some fear, but it comes back to professionalism and training. Everything you learned in training just sort of focused in, and you did it. And everybody did it. There was no second thought. You just done it.
Now, it's been relatively quiet here since then. I guess your presence here is obviously making a difference.
Yes, it does make a difference. To what level, to what degree, I'm not sure, because I'm just a small man, a big game. So from what I see, yes. People are responsive to us in a lot of positive ways. And like everything else, there's some negative views to it as well. Where I see the real impact is upon the children here. They seem to take kindly to us. They're the future of this country, so as long as we make an impact somewhere.
Well, how important are these patrols that you're doing?
Our patrols, I feel right now, are very important because it shows them a sign of presence. It shows them that we're not intimidated by the actions they've taken against S4 during the riots on April 24th. So even though they're long at times, I feel they're very valuable to the stabilization of the community in town.
Since a full-scale riot here in Drvar April 24th, things have been relatively quiet. Still, the Canadian military considers this place a flashpoint for possible future clashes between hardline Bosnian Croats and displaced Bosnian Serbs. So Canadian troops who refer to Drvar as Dodge City will continue to maintain an active presence here. Doing so will allow thousands of other Serb refugees to eventually return home. Some are, even though they're not being welcomed by the Croats, who claimed the area in the bloody civil war a few years ago. And as unsettling as the April riot was, the urge for some refugees to come back was too strong. We spoke with a few who would not appear on camera for fear of reprisal.
Nostalgija, iskonski osjećaj za svoje.
She suffered from the feeling of nostalgia, big
Tu
time.
sam ja provela 38 godina. Ja sam sama došla da primim
No,
stan.
she came here by herself to get back her apartment, and she thought that everything will be all right, that everybody would start coming back. There's no power, there's nothing. They have healthy spirit,
Jaka volja
strong will,
i to će nas održati.
and that's what they're going to keep them going.
So are you going to stay here now?
Jel hoćete ostati onda ovdje u Drvaru?
Da, kako da ne?
Yes, but of course.
Kako da ne, tu rođena, tu rasla, tu porodicu stekla.
She was
tu
born here, she
djecu
lived here
učila,
all her life,
38
she got
generacija
family
je
here,
svela.
38 generations came up from the school with her.
Did you ever think this would happen to you?
Nikad, ni u
Never,
snu,
not even in her
ni
dreams.
u snu.
Mislim da bi međunarodna zajednica
He
morala
believes that international community should
naći načina da djeluje
find some
efikasnije.
ways how to work more properly, how to work
Inače,
efficiently.
napaćenim ljudima ne treba
So
ništa
people who
pričati.
suffered a lot should not just talk with them. They
Treba
shouldn't just
raditi,
talk to them. They
određivati
should do
posao
some
mirovnog
other
procesa.
things. They should go into implementation of the peaceful process.
We had to come back because it's our home and there is no place there is no other place to live but home. And now we have to fix the buildings and repair our homes.
Up next on Base Petawawa Journal, a visit to the Advanced Surgical Center at Camp Halopina.
Base Petawawa Journal, brought to you by Canex CFB Petawawa.
Line and third line. It's where we provide second line and third line medical care for the Canadian soldiers in theater here in Bosnia.
And what about this operating room in particular?
The operating room is, there's one bed available, and that's if we have injuries, car accidents, or if people have been injured in some other way. We have a surgeon and an anesthetist on call 24 hours a day, and one OR team which consists of a nurse and a OR tech also on call. And we're just provide surgical care.
Has it been used much?
We had a few cases since the beginning of the tour, minor cases, and that's about it, yeah.
Is it any different working under conditions like this than in a normal hospital?
No, because the equipment is quite similar, and it's like working at home. Of course, it's a lot of the equipment is the same, and to us, it's not. It doesn't make a big difference.
So you could be really anywhere with this
Yes,
system.
we can move this. Well, not the whole facility, but we can work on the tentage and use the same equipment and be ready within an hour or an hour and a half to receive surgical patients, yes.
I'm with the unit, this Canadian Force Medical Group. I'm the dental officer for this unit, and I'm working on tour for the ASC, the Advanced Surgical Center. We're pretty self-contained, we're pretty independent. We can do basically all kind of treatment here. We have, except crowns, bridge, partial dentures, full dentures. Basically, we can do all routine surgery routines. We have a pretty good setup, sterilizer. We got X-rays. We got, and we're pretty self-contained. Like I said before, we can be operational on the road in 40 minutes, and we can set up ready for patient in 1 hour in another location. The situation is not that confined. It looks pretty tiny. It looks pretty But finally, after a couple of months, it gets pretty comfortable and cozy, and you get to know your way around the van. You don't have much of room, but it's pretty good.
What's the tour been like? What's it been like being here in Bosnia?
Tour's been pretty good so far. It's been pretty hectic for our section, the dental section. It's been we had our big share of patients, like local patients, civilian. We have
civilians on base, all right?
yeah, we treat civilian on base. We treat United Nations personnel. We treat other country, foreign country S4 personnel. Basically, it's been a good tour. The morale is good, and the battle group is a good group to hang around with.
You have an X-ray machine here, and it's put to good use?
Yes, sir. We do about 300 pictures in 6 months. I did about 300 patients, I mean.
Is it any different working under conditions like this than, say, in a normal?
Well, the equipment is more, you have to work more with the equipment. It's a more portable things. You can do X-ray and you can move it and go in next room and things like that.
You guys, I understand, have a pretty good camaraderie here. You're all from Valcartier. You get along well. The tour's been going well, has it?
Oh yes, we know each other for about 10 years, so it's a good teamwork we have, and yeah.
Does that make a big difference?
Oh yes, big. That's the big difference here. When we know that, when we don't know each other, it takes about 2-3 months to get used to work with somebody. When we know everybody knows each other, just 2 days after you arrive here.
Comfortable.
Yeah. Oh yes.
The emergency room has 2 bays, and it is set that we can lift, take them away in 24 hours. You know, it can be sent anywhere in the world within 24 hours. The hospital also, we've seen since we arrived in theater, we had 125 patient day admitted. That means there's patients that have stayed 125 days in hospital.
And who was that?
Those are patients that have injuries. It could be military personnel. We've seen IPTF members of the UN police force. And for every day that a patient stay in a bed here, it's called a patient day. So
This is 6 months?
This is over the last 5 months.
Do you treat civilians too?
We treat civilians in an emergency basis only. That means if they come to the door and they need, it's an emergency, or we're gonna treat them.
Have you had many?
We had maybe 2% of the whole emergencies we've seen being civilian.
What's it like working in conditions like this? Is it any different than if you were in?
The facility here is very good. It's very good. We have everything we would find in a small hospital. The only thing is it's portable, it's battery operated, and it's smaller. But we have everything we need, definitely.
Generators?
We have, the hospital has its own generator with a backup, and everything works on 110, 220 in the house. So it's very effective.
Our big goal here is to make sure that there's always an emergency service available for the troops, especially for blood banking. They might need blood units, and we always keep about 20 units are always ready to be transfused to anybody.
Here is a 6-bed holding unit. That's where we're going to keep the patients that are stabilized and that need therapy, like IV therapy, if they need blood, or if they are under investigation, they need tests, things like that. We're going to hold them here. It's a unit where we usually hold people for 24 to 72 hours. We have 6 beds right now. We can put 8 beds if we remove the table, but we just leave it there so that it's more convenient for the patients.
Up next, behind the scenes on a sustainment flight.
CC-130 at Bosnia. There's 2 a week. There's sustainment flights, the ones, by example, for Bosnia, there's 2 a week. There's one CC-130 Hercules and one CC-150 Polaris, also known as the Airbus. The Airbus usually goes to Bosnia and does a round trip in 3 days, while the Hercules is going there in about 7 days. Both flights are carrying sustainment material, mainly equipment for the troops down there. It can be vary from vehicle parts to some food, combat rations. On some flights, when there's some space available, we are also sending some humanitarian aid for the people of Bosnia.
So these flights are obviously very important.
Well, indeed, because mainly most parts, like for the vehicles, by example, they're all parts are in the depots here, so the troops couldn't go without parts for their vehicles or tents or all the combat rations that they use. All comes from those flights, so it's really indeed important for them. CC-130 Hercules, you can put usually about 25,000 pounds, 6 pallets of loads. On the Airbus, or if you wish, the Polaris, you can put up to around 65,000 pounds of freight and 60 passengers. Once they get to Zagreb, they are offloaded down there, and then all the material that is sent to Zagreb is then redistributed by trucks to the different camps we have there in Bosnia.
And do they come back empty usually, or how does that work?
No, they can come back with either some parts that have to be repaired, and they are beyond repair down there in Bosnia. And also sometimes some passenger can come back to Canada for some familial reasons. So that's what the flights bring back. And some other times those flights can be used as a collateral flight. They can go somewhere else in Europe and bring back some equipment that has to come back to Canada.
I'm a flight attendant on board, yes. So we're in charge of the passenger service, basically, and in case of evacuation, if there's ever a need.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for 2.5 years now. It's only a temporary job for us. We come from all trades for flight attendant. Originally I was in electronics, so I've got another 1.5 years to go. It's for 3 years with a possibility of a year extension.
What do you like about the job?
Oh, the people, the places you go and see, it's just wonderful. For the Zagreb and the UN 303, the one that goes to Tel Aviv, it's always a config because they've got so much freight to bring to the place and taking freight back.
I'm a load master on the Airbus. You do the weight and balance and make sure the plane's balanced for flying and that the load is secure and it's not going to shift in flight.
And how long have you been doing that?
Myself since 1990. I started off on the Boeing with 4 through 7 Squadron and then moved to the Boeing and the Airbus, and now I'm just on the Airbus.
How many hours a month are you in the air?
I vary. It varies. Sometimes I hit up to 70, 75, but lately I've been averaging around 50 hours a month.
You travel everywhere that Canada has military?
Yeah, and then other places as well.
For instance?
I was in Central Africa there about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I've been into Russia in the last 6 or 8 months. Crete.
Sounds like you've got a pretty interesting job.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting.
Up next, making life better for Bosnian children.
Base Petawawa Journal, brought to you by CanX CFB Petawawa.
Major, how do you feel? Major, how do you feel to see this project come to fruition?
It's great to finally see it come through. We've been working on this one since the beginning of the tour. I suppose we started about 3 months ago in terms of the planning for it, and it took us a couple weeks to actually find the school. When we got on the ground in late January, early February, we took a look to see what schools would need a little bit of assistance, and in early February we found this one, and they have taken us on with in full arms, open arms, right from the start, and we dropped off a fair amount of humanitarian aid supplies to them. The school is in pretty rough condition, as you may have seen from earlier pictures of the school, and the roof in particular. And we have just recently finished completing a playground for them. The only thing left to do on it is slides, so we'll put the slides in probably in about a week or so once we get them.
To see the smiles like this, it's got to make you guys feel really good.
It feels great. There's a number of soldiers that aren't here today that participated in putting this together. All told, probably most of the soldiers in one way or another, there's 250 soldiers in the national support element, one way or another they contribute to this. We raised about $10,000 out of the soldiers, out of all of our own money to contribute to this. And what you see behind us is a few $1,000s worth of what they put in at the playground.
We can't help everyone in country. There's a lot of children that are having hard times, but if we can reach out, we do make pretty good money over here for being on tour, so if we can give a little bit of that back.
Thank you.
During the war, this school was used as a military camp and sustained heavy damage. Much of it was repaired, although there's still no running water and limited electricity. So projects like this mean a lot to the teachers and students.
Yeah, as you can see it, the pupils and the teachers as well, they are very, very satisfied, and you can see the happiness on their faces, pupils and teachers, both. We are very grateful to SFAR because they brought a lot of school equipment to us. Before that, we didn't have many, but we are very grateful to them.
How do the teachers feel about the soldiers doing this?
It is a bit strange for teachers and pupils as well, because soldiers are doing this. We are used around here like to regular people, not soldiers, see? Because before civilians were doing this job.
After the playground christening, a friendly game of soccer between troops and locals. Another way to reinforce an already strong and lasting friendship. And that closes out this special edition of Base Petawawa Journal. I'm Dan Nisnik at Camp Drvar, Bosnia. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next time.